Hey everyone, it's Zack Childress here, and I am doing a student highlight today with one of my students, Jon. Jon, do I always say your last name right when I say Stevens?
Yeah, it's Stevens. Yep.
Okay. Well, Jon, welcome to Student Highlight,
Thank you.
man.
Yeah, good to be here.
You're
Also excited.
probably one of my fastest students that have made it to this point.
Well, I'm excited to be here. It's been a busy couple of months.
I'm sure it has, man. So what I want to do and what this highlight is all about is just to let other people kind of see what successes looks like. And then success is all different levels, and success grows as we grow, right? But in the beginning, when a real estate new investor starts off, I mean, success is really just the first deal, right? It's like, get me to that first deal. And so I want to talk about that with you a minute. So before we jump into the deal, I just want to, kind of lean a little bit into kind of, what you started real estate because fill in the blank, right? Jon started real estate because Jon wanted what?
So, my W-2 job, my normal corporate job is a very busy job. I mean, it's a 50 to 60 hour a week job, like, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot of things coming at me. And I'm realizing as time goes on, I am missing time with my kids. Like, I am missing getting to be part of their lives as they grow up. And that's a window that's closing. You don't get that time back. And so I wanted to find a way to transition my income to something that's occurring behind the scenes that gives me that freedom to do what I want to do versus basically all the energy and all the time I spend is feeding someone else's paycheck.
Yeah.
And so this was basically, I've looked at a lot of different options, and I really like sort of the accessibility of real estate.
Yeah.
And wanted to jump in and kind of see where that would take me.
Love it, man. And I think honestly, Jon, what you said there is why a lot of people get into real estate, right? Like, they look at their career and they say to themselves, man, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere fast, right? Or am I going to be one of these people that put in 38 years to then just get laid off before I hit my 40-year mark, right? And back in my dad's days, you hoped you got a watch. Right. Well, a watch don't put food on the table when you're now looking around trying to figure out how you're going to take care of your family. And so, but you also said something else I want to highlight a little bit too. And that is the fact that you said, you were wanting to build this life for the family and, putting in all this work for other people. But, I've always been the type that has said, don't come to me for help if you think real estate is rainbows, cupcakes, and unicorns, because it ain't.
No, it's true.
Can it get easy? It can, but you know what? I think the reason that a lot of people don't make it is because it's that beginning hump they got to get over, right? They got to be on the phone. They got to run numbers. They got to build a network. We call it a lead network. They got to do all these things that they've never done before. And are there going to be roadblocks along the way?
Absolutely, yeah. And you got to push through them, but it's pretty gratifying to get to the other side of it.
It is. And that's why I think so many people, they hit that first roadblock, or a deal doesn't go through, or a seller might say something that hurts their feelings, and they just like, and they pull back. And, I believe that's because their why isn't big enough. Right.
Mm-hmm.
If the why is big enough, you'll jump into a fire to save your family, right? And so I think that that's important for them to understand that. So your big reason you started real estate is the same reason I started real estate, man. I didn't even have kids at the time, but here's what I said to myself. I said, I don't want to wait down the road and then wake up one day and figure out, now what am I going to do? I was pretty fortunate that I ended up at a seminar and got introduced to real estate in my early 20s. And so same story, just a little bit of a different speed aspect of it. But anyways, let's get back to the speed aspect of this thing, man. Because I mean, tell me, what was it? Was it our fourth, fifth, sixth? What?
I think it was the fourth call.
Fourth call. We were literally on our fourth call, and you had already had a deal.
Yep.
Now that is a testament to you not making excuses. You saying, "Oh my gosh, he just put a whole bunch of homework on me." but you just got to it, man, and you did it. So talk us through that mental shift, because because people are going through this when they start real estate. They've got their 9 to 5, they got their normal habits, their normal activities. But when you start into real estate, something has to change. And obviously you changed that pretty quickly. So talk us through that, like, oh my goodness, this is a whole new adventure. What did you do to make those changes?
No, I mean, I'll kind of start by saying, Zach, that I remember a conversation early on with my wife, and it was this is the busiest passive income I've ever seen you have. It was definitely a lot of work, just trying to get through it and get things kind of going. But the reality is, I had faith in the process. It's something that you've talked about, and these are the steps you need to follow. And I told you right from the beginning, Zach, I just need a direction. Like, give me a direction, and frankly, I like to win. I want to run, and I wanted to be that guy that basically got a deal really fast. And so I pushed for it, and it was work. It was figuring out where I can find time to get it done. And the reality is, we all have time.
Yes.
We don't want to believe that we have time. We look at our schedule and say, I can't do it. There's just nowhere. I work an extremely busy job. I've got a lot of responsibilities. I've got 3 kids. There's a lot going on in life. But if you go after it aggressively and you say, okay, I'm going to be making these calls, I'm going to go through it. Sometimes you're building your list late at night. Sometimes it's, okay, I've got an hour during lunch that I can run over and start making some phone calls. Right. And you just make these phone calls. And I think a lot of people, they don't want to pick up the phone and call. And I mean, I encounter this in my W-2 job, and my people I'm working with are like, no, I don't, I'm sending an email. I was like, just pick up the phone. Like, you'll get an answer so much faster. And the same thing is here, just pick it up and make that call. The more you sit there staring at it, you're just wasting time, and you just got to burn through it. You just got to, okay, let me do it. Let me go through, put in those reps. And once you start doing that, it gets easy. Like, it gets pretty.
Well, you said putting in the reps, and I think that's something me and you talked about in the beginning, right? Yeah. I was like, look, this is creating habits, right? You just got to be repetitious about this thing. So, but I think you're saying something that people need to hear too, Jon, is like, we all have time. We are our biggest problem we have to solve, right? Is like, what am I going to stop doing so that I can live this new life in this journey? And I got to put the work in now. So, the things that you did to change, was a lot of it was mindset, right? Setting high goals, wanting to be a leader on the leaderboard. I mean, that's leadership in itself, right? You don't want to be the person in the back. You want to be up front. So I love that. So let's lead to the next part of this, is like, we were talking about this before we started really recording this, was, everybody says you got to pay for leads, you got to pay for leads, you got to pay for leads. And I'm totally like the opposite of that. I'm like, look, you should never pay for leads when you first start. You should just start getting deals and use that money to then pay for leads if you want to. And I get a lot of rebuttal back on that, because people just don't believe it's possible. But I mean, let's talk about reality here, Jon. I mean, how much money did you spend on marketing for the deal that we're going to talk about, or any of the leads you got in your pipeline?
None. It's and that's the thing is, I think people want a lottery ticket solution, right? They want to be able to throw a little money at something and have basically stuff come flying back at them in this huge swath of victory, right? But it doesn't work that way. And you've got your pinwheel process where you talk about the number of free leads, and the reality is, you're going to do the same work on those free leads as you would do on anything that you're going to pay for. There's still work that has to get done. If you're not doing the work on the free leads, you're not going to do it on the paid leads.
Amen.
Amen. And it's so, whether it's, the different areas you talk about, the different pieces of the pinwheel, you just start working those angles. And like, I've got leads flowing at me that I'm running out of time to do with them, even without marketing. Like, there's just so much possibility. And once you start that lead, it's like putting a key in an engine. The engine is turning, and now it's just flowing in. Like, I could take a week off and I'd be swimming in leads.
And we talk about that and I think this is where a lot of people get confused is we talk about building a lead network. And my whole philosophy is, look, yeah, there's that front end. I'm going to pay for a bunch of leads and snatch some leads out of the market, but it has no longevity. Where the lead network is, we may not right out the gate get a lead in 30 days, but it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds as you build that lead network, and it just keeps coming and coming. So it's almost like a reversed end. It's long-term versus immediate gratification, and people want immediate gratification, and that doesn't win in the long run. And that's what I try to explain. So I love
you actually said something really great on that to me during a coaching session, which is you think of it yourself as an entrepreneur and you get paid once a year.
Yeah.
Right. And basically all the work you're doing up to the end of that year to get that once a year paycheck.
Yep.
And if you think about it that way, and you're not trying to expect every lead is going to be $1 million lead and every piece of the puzzle is supposed to make you a bunch, you're just going through that process and you're working it, pretty soon the wheels start turning on their own. That's and right. Then lead, like I had someone call me this morning saying, hey, I got some properties. I know we had been talking a couple of weeks ago, or do you want to hear about them? You know, they just start coming in because you're building that network.
Yeah, man. So many people need to hear that, Jon. Like they need. Look, I can stand in front of the room or be on a virtual event or wherever and share that. And they just think, oh yeah, you know, this guy's just talking out his neck, right? Like they don't understand, like they it's just better when it comes from a student. You know
well, it's legit, man. It is 100% legit, and it's they just start coming in, and you. But it's, and I don't want to make it sound like it's magic, right? Like there was a lot of work that went into getting that key turned.
Yep.
And you know, I can tell that there's still need. You know, you have to keep watering it, right? It's not going to. It won't last forever, but the effort now, like the number of leads that are popping up that don't require an immediate action on my part, it's actually shocking. It's pleasantly surprising with what I've got going on now. So
yeah, and also, I mean, you know, you, as we've worked together, you're learning systems and processes, how to get through them faster, how to identify them a little bit easier. You're learning the set process, taking the call, moving it to a set, and then determining whether we can move them into bracketing for an offer. That's all more of the in-depth aspect that we're not going to go in on this call today. But I just wanted to get us to the point of your deal. You know, it's always some things I ask generally 3 or 4 questions getting us to that point. But then let's talk about the deal. So you got a home run deal right out the gate, which I would have bought that deal. So kudos to you for finding that one. But so let's go through the deal a little bit. So it's a rental house, right?
It is. Yep.
And so what's the equity position, would you say, on that rental house?
So it's probably ARV around 65,000.
Okay. And so you probably have what, 20,000 of equity, 30,000 of equity?
Yeah. So I basically bought it initially in cash, and I will build it up. But it definitely required some work to go into it. So in the end, it'll basically, once I refinance out of it, I'll be probably sitting 15 to 20,0and in equity on it.
Okay, so that's good. So this is a BRRRR, which is something we lean on a lot. I'm making these new shirts. I got to give you one of them. It's called Buy, Rent, Repeat. So it's not the whole BRRRR. It's just 3 words: buy, rent, repeat. So because that's wealth, right? Like that's what I talk about. Look, we could go out and wholesale, but wholesale ain't going to make you wealthy.
No, I mean, you got to keep working for that. You got to
it'll get you a paycheck, right? I tell everybody, I'm like, one rental house will equal 1 wholesale deal, but the rental house will keep going forever, right? So I say it all the time. So, all right. So then let's talk. So when we go after rental property, so you've got a property, you're getting it ready to burn. You've got some equity play in it. You're cash flowing on this thing. What is the estimated year 1 cash on cash return for that one deal?
About 40%.
Yeah, man, look at that. Jeez Louise. So for people watching this that don't believe me when I say this all the time, you can be getting double-digit returns on your money. It is very, very possible when you look for the right deals. And I say that constantly, and people are like, what? That's crazy. And I'm like, no, it's not crazy. It's reality. When you get away from the standard processes that we're taught to go buy real estate with, like go get an agent, buy houses off the MLS. When you get away from that and you start looking in like these sub markets, these isolated markets where the competition isn't as crazy, you can pick deals like this up. Which I believe the one you picked up was in what we call a third tier type market.
An hour and a half outside of a main city.
And so that proves another point. Look, almost every single one of my rental properties are not in the city I live in. Not one of them. Same way with the one you just picked up. It's not in the city you live in.
Right.
And I think people have to understand when you're in such a hyperinflated market like we're in, trying to find one in a major city you're not going to get a 40% cash on cash return deal. It's not happening. It is not happening. You might be lucky if you get a 7%. So you have to weigh that, right? Do I want to make 40% return on my money, or do I want to make 7% return on my money? And if you're buying rental properties correctly, it doesn't matter where it's located, because you're not going to be riding out there fixing faucets and changing locks. That's what management's for, right? So once this thing stabilizes through, and by the way, let's be clear, that 40%, just so people understand, that's TNOI, right? True net operating
Correct. Income. Yeah, that's after debt service, that's after paying property management, that's after making reserve accounts for vacancies and maintenance. So that 40% is just what's left over.
What's left over. So we stabilize it in year one, we get a solid tenant, we move into year two, that tenant says, hey, I want to stay for another year, so you really don't have to pull that much of a reserve back out anymore. What does year two look like on this deal?
55 to 60%.
Ah, man.
Yep. And when we fix it up, we're fixing it up to be nice. So I really do anticipate
higher rent.
A tenant that wants to stick around. It's
they will.
They're not moving in, because a lot of the houses in that area need a whole lot of work. When I speak to the property managers, they talk about, oh gosh, yeah, if someone could come in and fix some of this up, it'd be great. And so not only do I have a house that lets me command a higher rent because it's nicer, it's cleaned up, it's been fixed up, but I also get a better tenant that's wanting to stick around. So it works out on so many levels. Like it's pretty exciting.
So it's like first deal, pow, out of the park. So now you have to remember the second deal may not be that great, right? Yeah. But here's the beauty. If the second deal is only 20%, that means your overall portfolio is still running at 30%. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the game right there. This, you can probably hear it in me. This is how I get excited, is when people build wealth, right? Wealth is through holding real estate and measuring the rate in which your money is growing at. Yep. That is wealth, right? It's not, look at my house, it's 2 streets over, I rent it out. I don't care. What is it making you, right? Like how many times you gonna ride over and fix a faucet? You're not. Right?
And that's one of the first things that people kind of need to learn in this, is it's not about the cash flow necessarily, right? People talk about, oh yeah, I make $800 a month on mine. Well, if you got no mortgage on it, it's pretty easy if you paid it all in cash. But it's about what you can make on your money.
Yes.
And so when you've only got a couple of $1,000s left in the deal and you're making $250, that's sweet, right? Like that's money.
Hey, John, how many times did I say that in like our 3-day event or something? I'm like, it's not about the cash flow every month. It's the return on the money.
And that's ultimately what drew me into coaching with you, Zach, is basically, I remember, actually, it's probably a bad thing, but I kind of drifted off and started kind of writing down some math while you were talking during the 3-day event. And I'm like, I don't care if I'm only making $50 a month on this thing. If I'm making $50 a month and having put $0 in at the end of the day, that's basically free money.
Yeah. Or what I say to people all the time, like, I would much rather take down a deal that makes $100 a month where I've only got $1,000, $1,500 in the deal, versus a deal where I'm making $300 a month, but I had to put 30,000 into it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I don't think people's mindsets understand there's that bell curve that I talk about all the time. Everybody keeps seeing their life on the other side of the bell curve. And I'm like, you're not there yet. You got to grow assets and grow money to then start paying it off.
Right.
And yeah, your cash flow per house increases, but your cash return decreases. But you're on the other side of the bell curve now.
You're not worried about it. Yeah.
You're not worried about it then, but everybody tends to look on that side versus the climbing side, which is where we got to grow our money as fast as possible. So that's amazing, man. Well, I'm glad that you said that's why you went into coaching, because I tend to
yeah. Well, I mean, part of it is just you're so authentic, Zach. Like you genuinely want to help people reach success.
I do.
Right. And it speaks to me, and I've attended lots of boot camps and lots of webinars and things like that are designed, and a lot of those just turn into a sales funnel, and you can tell that the person's on autopilot. Like they're just, all right. I mean, they're playing a lead game, and they're just basically trying to gather all these people, but your energy and your eagerness and you're willing to try to meet the person where they're trying to grow, like that spoke to me. And then basically, you got it from a different direction. Like I had always been thinking, okay, how much cash flow can I get? But the reality is it's not about the cash flow. It's about the return. And that's what you're focused on. If you're trying to grow this thing, you need the return.
Yes.
And I was sold, man. I was sold.
That's right. I mean, I do appreciate that, because that is my message. My message is look, guys, any book in Barnes and Nobles will tell you how to do real estate. But if you really want to get to wealth, you got to learn how to grow your money. You got to lean in on this on a financial literacy type of, whether it's your money or somebody else's money. It doesn't matter where the money comes from. It's just, we need to learn how to take that money and then grow that money. And that is, and that's it. Obviously I say that really easy, right? Grow that money, but there's more layers to that, like how we set our systems up, how we put a lead network in place, how we manage a pinwheel, how we find third markets, how we start to run numbers. There's all these layers that help us really maximize those dollars, and which then ends up in a deal like you're in right now. So tell me this. So I know you're working, you got stuff going, man. Your offer tab's always got deals in it. I'm trying to keep up with you.
Hey, you said you wouldn't have a problem with that. and you do great, man. So,
I mean, I'm like, because I tell everybody, look, you don't make an offer unless I see it. Well, with John over here, if you're paying attention, I'm like, oh, geez, man, this guy's on fire. Like, I got to keep up with him. So,
I got places to be, Zach.
I hear you, man. Look, and I want you to be there. So I'm doing my best, man. So what do you got in the pipeline then? Where are we at in the pipeline? By the way, with $0 spent on marketing.
Yep. So I think I've got 4 or 5 really likely candidates right now that it really is going to come down to. So I've done on-sites with all of them. I'm trying to get some estimates from contractors on a couple of them just to see where I would end up. Basically, it's you talk about building that foundation early on, and it's so critical. And I can't imagine not having my foundation at this point of people to call and say, hey, I need to put together an estimate on this, or talking to my realtor about, hey, what do you think the ARV would be here? Can I get that report? Because it's just, things start moving so fast. Yep. You want to have that relationship and have a good person that you can talk to on it. But it's so I've got 4-ish that I think are strong contenders. I actually just had one fall through with a wholesaler this week that I thought I was going to basically say, hey, Zach, I need you to take a look at this contract because I think I'm about to go under contract for number 2. I got
that Voxer from you. They
but
do an inspection.
They wouldn't allow a home inspection. He basically said there'd be no. I mean, I kind of hardballed him on the negotiation and brought him down pretty heavily on the pricing, and he basically considered that grounds for not needing a home inspection.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: you could still buy it as is, but you still need to be able to go through it with an inspector to see what you're getting into.
Absolutely, and I said that. I said, hey, man, this isn't going to change whether or not I want to buy your property. Like this is something that I'm still going to be pretty interested in. So there had been a couple of other warning flags about how he wanted to work, so I kind of passed on it. We'll see if he comes back to me next week, though, trying to repair that relationship and get the house moved because I told him I'd close in 2 weeks. But so I've got that one that just kind of fell out. But then like I said, I got an investor called me this morning saying, hey, I've got a friend who basically needs to get rid of 3 houses. He's willing to basically sell them at essentially no markup from what he paid because he just needs to free up some cash. So
boy, the ball is just rolling for you right now.
Like I said, you don't need to pay for marketing, Zach. Like, you don't need to pay for marketing. There's so much out there.
This all the time. They just, I don't know, John. Well, one, they're not being coached by me, so that's probably
right.
I don't know, man. Every other guru out there is trying to get people to do paid marketing. So when I come in and say you don't have to do it, it goes against the grain, you know?
Well, it's because you want people to work, Zach.
Yes.
Like, other gurus are trying to give people here's a system that you put X dollars in and you'll get X dollars out. And you can do it for 5 hours a week or 3 hours a week or for no time, because that's what you're paying for. But the reality is none of those are going to be really that effective if you haven't mastered doing it for free. And once you do it for free, yes, you even start asking yourself, do I want to pay for this? Yeah. Because I've got so much going on without paying.
Well, and then it becomes
work towards scale from there.
It becomes a better internal system, right? Because you've got it dialed in. And that's my whole, remember I said it to you in the beginning. I said, look, we're going to work free leads until we build this system, we get our conversions, and then we'll look at if we're going to pay. And so, yeah, so that's a beautiful thing, man. I definitely love that you're highlighting that. And I do appreciate that. So let me ask you this. So obviously you're in coaching. We've talked about that a couple of times through this. What was the problem that you found when you were going into real estate that made you realize, you know what, I probably need a coach and it'll help me solve that problem? What was that big problem and why maybe you just didn't go do it on your own?
Yeah, great question, Zach. And it really comes down to, I don't want to call it a safety net, but basically a little bit of security around pulling the trigger on something. Because I think all of us get into this, like, as you said, you can go anywhere and get a Barnes & Noble book on real estate. You can find YouTube University and get a ton of knowledge. And, that's another thing that you talk about in some of your training is, knowledge without action it doesn't help anyone.
Useless.
Like we just as a society, we like to consume knowledge. Like, oh yeah, no, I want to learn everything I can, but we don't do anything with it. And I think I was falling into that rut. Like, it was an easy, oh, let me just read a little more. Let me just work a little more. And I deal with people on, popular real estate investing websites, and they basically live in a state of, let me analyze one more deal, or let me look at one more thing, or let me look at one more thing. And I knew I didn't want to be one of those guys. Like, I didn't want to be someone that a year from now, I'm still looking at property going, I really ought to pull the trigger on one of these someday. Yeah, I ought to buy one of these. Oh, I bet the numbers on that work out really well. But it's like mystic sorcery, right? Like, I don't know what happens behind the scenes. I don't know all the pieces of the puzzle. I don't know, I didn't know any of the things I needed to know to make like, you get this sort of surface awareness of how to look at a deal or how to evaluate something, but there's so many pieces of it that are actually the meat and potatoes of what you do, the actions, the steps, then do this and then do that and then do this, and make sure you call this person or make sure you got that lined up. And you don't know what those are until you actually do it for real. And I wanted to have a safety net. Like, I wanted to have someone I could fall back on. I want to say, Zach, take a look at this. When I did that first wholesale deal, you basically said, John, you need to make sure you see that contract because that's what you're buying. Yep. Right. You have to know. I wouldn't have known the things I needed to even ask. Yeah. And so by bringing you on and basically making you part of that team with me, I gain access to your many years of experience doing this, so that it's like having a coach that I can turn to and say, hey, coach, what do you think about this? Or coach, what should I do here? Or coach, what do you think about that? And you're not spoon feeding me answers. Like, you come around and tell me, okay, go do this work, John. Go figure this out. Go dig into this. But each time I do that, you're giving me a direction. You're saying, go attack over here. That's what you want to go do, man. Yeah. And
like, hey, there's a gap on the right side. Make sure you send the receiver down that right side.
Yep. And so, very much you're not spoon feeding me the solution, but you're telling me where I need to go to get it. and you are ensuring that I have all the pieces of the puzzle before I move forward. I run into things I don't know or I don't understand. I'm like, Zack, what's a land sale? I've never heard of this. Yeah. But when I try to Google it, I can't figure out what I'm looking for. And so you say, well, John, try looking up this or this or this instead, and I bet you'll find what you're looking for. Yeah. And so it's having that extra sort of knowledge behind me was really all I needed to do to get over that starting line to get running.
Man, you're kicking butt, man. So the goal now for you isn't, I made this deal. Now it's to keep that momentum going, right? Yep. It's not to slow down, because a lot of times when we get through lap one, we're like, oh man, I'm beating everybody. Let me let off. No.
Oh, yeah. Good enough is the enemy of great.
Yes, because you got one more deal you want to get done before the end of the year, right?
I'd like to get 2 done before the end of the year if I can.
So that's, we got to keep the gas down. So I got a couple more for you here. So what exactly did you think, how do I say this? What's your biggest, like, this is what I loved about just being in coaching? Like, besides what you said, I mean, what was the one or the 2 things that you liked most about what we're doing together?
I love that you customize the plan for me, right? This isn't, you mentioned earlier, I'm moving faster than a lot of your students have moved, but you move the targets. Like, we even had items that you've got a website with a lot of different areas that it's like, oh, here's this training for week 1, week 2, week 3, et cetera. And you're like, John, go ahead and look at the week 3 stuff, before we got there. John, go ahead and look here. You're probably at that point. I tell you, hey, I'm target, this is where I want to be financially. And you say, okay, well then this is where we're going to I want you to go after 3 markets, and I want you to do this, and I want you to do this. Like basically you customize it to try to fit the goals that I have, versus just hey, here's a one size fits all, just start doing it and it'll work for you. You're really trying to work to figure out what I'm trying to achieve and what I need to do it. And then you push me, you hold me accountable. Like I remember I came to you whining one time saying, it's I don't want to make these, I don't like calling these kind of leads, they're not fun. You're like, John, you're looking at it wrong, man. You gotta suck it up, get on it. And it's not about trying to get a home run on every lead. It's about putting in that effort and putting in that work. And so you're available for me. You push me. You don't let me get complacent. And then you've helped map out the direction I'm trying to go over 3 years, and say, this is a path, man. And we're going to hold you on it.
Love it, man. And I remember that call, actually. I remember when you're like, yeah, these leads. I was like, man, we're not going that way.
No, I didn't even want to get on that call. I was like, I don't want to talk to Zack. This is not going to be a fun call. But
that's what I'm, I tell everybody, look, you'll either like me or hate me in the beginning, but once you start making money, you'll love me. All right, man. So let me ask you the big question. Somebody that might be watching this, maybe they're brand new, maybe they're just getting started. Maybe they've got on a couple of phone calls and got discouraged, or maybe they spent some money on marketing and didn't know how to convert people yet. 2 things. What would you say to the person to keep their focused, so that they get back up and go again, or they know it's okay, it can happen? What would you say to that person? And then also, what would you say to the person if they might be watching this, looking at maybe working with my company? So 2 things there. What would you say in those 2 aspects?
Yeah. So, the person that gets discouraged on it, or they're basically feeling like, I don't want to make another call, or I don't want to do this, or this process doesn't work. It's, you get out what you put in a lot of cases, and it's not going to be an easy fix, right? It's not going to be something where you're just going to put in some money in a couple hours and all of a sudden you're going to magically have this big thing. And I think, the words you gave me about the entrepreneur getting paid once a year, that was extremely meaningful to me, because it was don't think about it as you need each one of these leads to convert. Think about it as, I am putting in those steps. I'm doing that effort because I know one of these is going to pan out over the course of the year. I think in your training, you even cover each lead source it's only going to get you one hit per year. I say that's the expectation, right? Now some hit more, but just have the expectation. Yeah, and if you get more, that's great. Yeah. But if you frame it around the fact that, yes, I'm chasing this lead source and it's not yielding much, it feels like crap. Good, awesome. Get the no. No's are fantastic. It lets you move on to the next one.
Yep.
Until soon, at some point, it'll be like magic when you run into the one that's like, oh, wow, this one actually kind of works. And then you almost don't know what to do when you got it. Like, it's like, oh, wow, I've caught this now. Now what am I supposed to do with it, right? And it's so I think you just gotta. It will work if you keep working it.
Yeah.
But you can't give up, and you can't look at it as a quick gratification. Like, this isn't about striking big in a month. This is about basically building something that will keep working even when you're not.
Yeah.
Both whether it's the rental income or the lead gen, right? Like, it'll be working because you have put in those steps, and it's going to eventually yield success for you. You just got to keep at it. Like, don't remember why you got into this, and ask yourself. I read a book by John Acuff that says he has a plane crash moment where basically when the plane is crashing, he says, what are the 3 things that I wish I had done?
Yep.
And then what you do each day, and this is basically how I remind myself on things, is think about what those 3 things are that you wish you had done, or you wish you were better at, or wish something, and ask yourself, am I taking steps every day towards getting to those things? And if I'm not, do I really want them?
Yeah.
Do I really want to be financially independent? Do I really want that time with the family? Because if I'm not doing everything in my power to get there, do I really want it? And be honest with yourself. And once you are, I think you'll find it's easier to put in that effort. And then as far as coaching with you, Zach, I mean, I guess it's sort of a similar statement, which is what I tell people that are thinking about it is you need to be prepared to work. You cannot, like, this is not a pay some amount of money and all of a sudden you've got this I'm basically paying for 15 spreadsheets and a couple of webinars that I'll watch maybe half of them over the course of the next year, right? That's not what this is. This is something where you are going to put in effort, but it is going to yield you results. Like, and you may not notice them on one call, or you may not notice them on a session, but as you're putting it in and you're following the process, and Zach will say many times through this, just follow the process. I promise you it's going somewhere. Like, you are going to, you're like, I remember calling 100 real estate agents. Like, it was something like 100 real estate agents, because there are a lot of them that don't really get investors. There are a lot of them that don't really get real estate, candidly, but just,
I agree.
And I'm sitting here calling these people saying, why am I doing this? I feel like I'm like making phone calls all the time just to contractors and real estate agents and property management companies. I've probably spoken to 24 property management companies, and I'm like, I don't know what this is going to yield for me. And then when you get to that later step, it's like, man, I am so glad I've got these people and I know which ones to call.
Yep. I
am so glad that, I need to remove a bunch of junk from this house tomorrow. Who's my junk person? There it is. I know them. They already know me. They're like, oh, hey, John. And we're ready to go. Like, and now all of a sudden in that moment when you're crunched on time and everything is moving in far more fast forward than you were expecting, because that's how it feels like for me right now. It feels like everything's on fast forward. And I am so glad that I took the time to establish that base.
Yes.
Because once everything starts flowing, it doesn't slow down.
No.
And you don't want it to. Like, you don't want it to, because you want to be able to capitalize on those leads and capitalize on those opportunities. And so it's be prepared to do the work. But once you do, the rewards are it opens this whole world of possibility.
Yeah.
And it's a very exciting place to be.
It very is, exciting. Man. And what's more exciting, I have to say, is on my side is watching it happen. Right. Because when you started, like what you were saying, you're like, man, why am I doing all this? And I always use the analogy, wax on, wax off, Danielson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, well, why am I cleaning your cars?
Yeah.
You will find out soon.
Yeah.
Because I believe in the tunnel vision, right? Like, if I shared everything with students, they wouldn't do anything, right? But if I just keep them focused on the micro aspects of development, like you just said, when the deal hits, they look back and go, oh my goodness, I have a whole business right now. Like, I didn't realize all of this now is being used, and it's for that reason. So,
and candidly, Zach, I mean, you say you're going to appreciate it. Things are going to move really fast. You're going to really like having that done. You'll say that, but until you're living it, you don't really know what that means, right? Like, I'm like, I could find someone in the moment, it'll be fine. But it's once you get to that moment, everything clicks in place. It's like Zach said, I was going to appreciate it, and yes, I really do.
And a lot of people don't understand the simplicity of that, because like what you just said, they're like, oh, I'll just call somebody. Yeah, that's where deals mess up. That's where you lose money. That's why we have so many people that fail miserably in this business or get taken advantage of. So, well, bro, I really appreciate you doing this, man. I mean, great story. Love the beginning of your story on why you did this. Love the deal you're in, the pipeline you got building. I mean, I think people need to hear messages. That's why we're doing these highlights, is like just to kind of get in the head of what someone else is in and they're living it, right? And so you're living it right now. You're living what most people want to start. And, you know, and at one point you wanted to start too, and now you're living it, right? So I'm very blessed to be your coach, man, and watching your success. And I hope other people can hear your story and realize it just takes a little work, you know, like they just got to get up and put a little work in, and it'll start to happen.
I mean, I've got a full-time job. I've got a full family, and I'm not spending on marketing, right? Like I'm not pouring a bunch of money into lead gen. Like it can be done. And I you can ask my wife. I knew nothing about real estate before any of this began. Like basically, I know that they've got walls and a sea of roof over your head. And that's about it. It can be done. You just got to put in the effort. Yeah. And once you start doing it and you make it a priority, like it will pay off. And you know, Zach, I really appreciate your help in kind of getting that ball rolling, because I could, even in other areas of my life, even assume one point I move past real estate or move into other areas, I am confident that things we have talked about and the lessons I've learned here will carry through with me into those areas as well. So it's been a super rewarding experience for me as well.
100%, man. It's all about life changes, right? So whether that's business or personal, I say it all the time, like we got to change who we are if we want to be able to have a better business. And so I appreciate that statement, man. Well, Jon, look, man, I'm going to let you get on with your day. I appreciate the highlight. And I'm kind of just sitting back watching you grow, man. So it's been cool, man. It really has.
Be ready. I got a couple offers coming your way soon. So
all right, we'll throw them on there. I'll look at them. Hey, you enjoy your family today, man. And I'll talk to you real soon. Okay. Thanks for being on here, Jon.
Take care, man. Yep. Thanks. I appreciate you having me.
All right, buddy. Bye.